And President Yoon was a leading voice in calling for cross-regional cooperation between the Indo-Pacific and Atlantic countries amid Russia and North Korea's military cooperation. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young tells us more.
South Korea will double its non-lethal support for Ukraine and increase its military cooperation with NATO as President Yoon Suk Yeol issues an urgent call to counter Russia and North Korea's military threat to Europe and the Indo-Pacific. On Thursday, the South Korean leader attended the annual NATO Summit for the third consecutive year, along with other Indo-Pacific partner countries, Japan, Australia and New Zealand, as the so-called IP4. Speaking at the session for NATO Allies and Partners, President Yoon said that value-based cooperation between NATO and the Indo-Pacific is an urgent call of the times to uphold global freedom and prosperity after Russia and North Korea last month forged a treaty on military and economic cooperation. According to US officials, Pyongyang has already supplied Moscow with around 11,000 containers of ammunition. Yoon said that it is due to enablers like North Korea that the Ukraine war has been lengthened and warned that military and economic support from Russia to North Korea would exacerbate security threats to the Korean Peninsula and the Indo-Pacific region. He stressed the need for overwhelming deterrence and also called for the power of cooperation between the Indo-Pacific and Europe to establish peace in Ukraine and to support its reconstruction efforts. In this regard, Yoon announced South Korea will double its contribution to the NATO Ukraine Trust Fund in 2025 to $24 million, up from $12 million this year. While Yoon said on Monday that South Korea could provide lethal support to Kyiv depending on the level of Moscow and Pyongyang's military cooperation, the NATO Trust Fund provides non-lethal military supplies to Ukraine. South Korea and NATO will also increase information sharing regarding North Korea-made weapons and those used against Ukraine, helping them discuss more elaborate countermeasures to the Russian-North Korea axis. Seoul and Brussels will further ramp up military interoperability through the mutual recognition of airworthiness certification. The South Korean leader and NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg welcomed these developments as they met on Thursday morning.
NATO's airworthiness certificate officially recognizes the flight safety of South Korea's domestically certified aircraft. South Korea is the first Asian country to sign such an agreement with Brussels. The certification is expected to facilitate aircraft exports and accelerate defense cooperation between the two sides in the aviation sector.
As Yoon gathered with other IP4 leaders, the minilateral group jointly condemned the Russia-North Korea treaty as a grave threat to peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific and Europe. They also met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and offered their united support for Ukraine's sovereignty. Based on their value-based solidarity, the South Korean leader further suggested the IP4 also expand their scope of cooperation to address the global south, maritime security, cybersecurity, non-proliferation and counter-terrorism.
Through participation in the NATO Summit, South Korea has enhanced its own security as well as global security cooperation. NATO's focus on the role of IP4, especially South Korea, has been emphasized and many leaders resonated with President Yoon's remarks, highlighting the need for cooperation with Seoul to strengthen solidarity between the Indo-Pacific region and the Atlantic.
Going forward, with the boundaries blurring between Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic security in the face of new complex threats and challenges, Seoul and Washington officials say they hope to institutionalize the cooperation between NATO and IP4 countries, building on their flagship projects on supporting Ukraine, cyber defense and artificial intelligence. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Washington, D.C.